push it out here a little bit to close the door and enter. Down the travel inside too bad. I put the 4-inch extension on here to bring the back tire back, rear tire back some to help keep the front end down.
Okay.
It's got a
It lifts them a lot.
do wheel stands.
Yeah.
Okay. But when I did that, I put the back fender on, and it now dug into the wheel because of the curve. So what I did was I cut it every 5/8 of an inch up to its highest peak, bent the fender out flat, and then filled it in with weld. So now it's the back fender straight back. And as you can see, the tail light versus the rear wheel, there's a big difference.
Yeah.
Distance where it used to be tucked up underneath. That was all the attempt. So it has a characteristic for doing wheel stands when you don't want them to. It's one of the reasons they call this bike the Widowmaker. It's got a nickname called the Widowmaker because a lot of people have died on it for various reasons.
Adjustable shocks, it looks like.
Yeah, it's adjustable shock, but almost all of them are. But I took the spokes out and put mags in there. It's off a 900 cal, front and back. Also put dual discs up front, which weren't stock.
What did it have?
Just a single disc on one
Oh,
side.
dual discs. Okay, I didn't see the other side.
Disc. And then I sent them out to Iowa or something like that, and they drilled them out for me. Actually, the bike in the back of the house, this is the disc off that bike. And I just took the two and I sent them out, and they drilled them out for me. But that was also to add weight to the front. These bikes don't stop for anything. So that's why I went with dual disc brakes up front, a new master cylinder, bigger diameter so it would operate the dual disc brakes. Then I lowered the front, put the gauges, instead of being mounted up on top that were up here, I mounted them underneath, down here, to give me a lower profile.
Did it used to have a windscreen? I think
No, this one didn't.
The other one did.
Yeah, and then I had to make up my new headlight bucket brackets. I made this myself out of some steel, some aluminum, and I had to do that because I wanted to lower the handlebars. I wanted to put clip-ons, and to get the distance between the upper triple arm and the lower one, I had to make another setup to allow for clip-ons and handlebars. And then to do that, I had to lower my splitter for the brake system, so I had to lower this too. You just to make one move, I had to make a lot of
You had to move
changes.
everything down.
I had to move everything down. So the headlights lower, a lot lower. The gauges are a lot lower. Handlebars are obviously a lot lower.
Yeah,
So
they look
keep
lower.
everything as low as I possibly could.
I remember it used to be a much more upright looking bike.
Right. It was like, I like to refer, it looked like a Pee Wee Herman bike, and I have an issue with that.
Yeah,
But it is incredibly quick. It's just like when it starts to torque up, it just keeps torquing.
have you ever gotten a dynoed?
No, not yet. I'm not happy with it. There's
Well, you should dyno it so you know your progress.
Yeah,
so even if you do dyno it now, and then you know what your other improvements would.
I could have, but I know there's more room for improvement before I dyno it. And what they can do, then you can tune it on a dyno and know to really bring it in.
Right.
So-
But then you know what your progress is.
Right.
This last one gave me 15 horsepower or whatever it was.
But the motor's completely redone, all the way down to the crank. Had the crank sent out.
And you bored it out, or?
Yeah, I only bored it because it had slight scarring. You don't want to bore these. You don't get the performance from boring. You get it from modifying your intake and exhaust.
Okay.
This is highly ported, incredibly ported. And to shave the intake, location of the intake, this was machined down. It used to be out here, and it was machined closer. You take that off, you can touch the pistons, they're right there.
Right.
And I went from a 32 millimeter carburetors to 40 millimeter carburetors, 40 millimeter flat slide. And I have.
What's that? That's the flap instead of a butterfly. It slides up and
They usually
down.
have a cylinder that goes up and down.
Okay.
And this just has a flat plate that goes up and down.
Okay.
The whole thing is shorter. It's a 40 millimeter. It's
Right.
like you can almost reach in there and touch the piston without.
And that gives you a shorter distance from carb to...
It gives me shorter distance, but the diameter is incredibly big.
Yeah.
32 to 40 millimeters, a big difference. And I also have a modified clutch. He set this up in New York. They machined the clutch, so instead of taking 13 discs, friction plates, now it takes 2 more. It's got 15. That's to handle the additional power. And I had the transmission all cut for what they call it's a race cut. So when your dogs go in, it's usually a straight cut. Now it's angled, so when it goes in, it actually hooks. Almost had to learn how to drive it all over again, because you just can't downshift. You can't come to a stop and downshift. It won't let go. You have to downshift while you're moving. If you forget to do that, you come to a stoplight and you forgot to downshift, you might as well turn the motor off and then downshift and start it back up again. It won't release out of those gears. Because this also is prone with the stock transmission to jump out of gear because of the torque.
I remember that happening once years ago. You took me out on the bike.
Yeah, first to second, and it goes right back into first again if you hit it hard.
You did that and then it popped out of gear. And
Yep. That's one of the weak things that were on it, but now it's got the race cut gears on there, so it hooks, and it won't release. And so now, but like I said, now you can't downshift, you can't come to a stop and downshift. You have to downshift as you're approaching your stop. Or otherwise, you might as well just turn it off, downshift, and then start it up again.
What's that other hose back in there?
That's for a battery. An overflow for a battery. But I got all new electronics.
All new solid state.
Yep, all new. It's better than the original. New regulator. It's not stock anymore. It's pretty much...
Now you're going to start all over again with the second bike?
It started out to be for parts and stuff like that. I don't know if I have the time and the patience to do it again. But I also added gussets on the frame, because one of the things is when you're doing it, they have something they call a death wobble on these bikes.
Okay.
When you're doing like 110, 120, all of a sudden it goes into a shake and you can't stop it. So they said, 1, it could be a loose triple tree. 2, it could be the spokes not aligned right, a weak frame. So what I did was got rid of the spokes, went to mags, put gussets on the frame where they recommended doing it in a couple of different places to stiffen the frame up.
And you did those yourself?
Huh?
You did those yourself?
I did the welding myself. And then the triple tree.
What is that?
It's got new bearings.
That's an adjuster?
Yeah,
or
it's
what?
an adjuster. This has 2 adjusters on it. One here, steering damper, and then just this crate's basically friction to keep that wobble out of it. But it's a lot of fun, and it gets a lot of attention because they were made so few years. Everywhere you go, you get a crowd. Plus, it sounds pretty good.
Yeah. Well, even the original one sounded really good. Even when you first got it, it sounded
it's got
great.
a little bit more pop.
Because these are fairly stock pipes, aren't they?
No, they're not even close. The bike in the back has a stock pipes on it. These are expansion chambers.
I don't remember what the old ones looked like. I thought these were the originals.
No, well, this is what I bought it with, but it's not stock.
Oh, okay. That's why I'm thinking these are original, but
The original to when I got it, but the ones in the back were chrome exhaust.
Cool.
It's fun. A lot of fun. Down here in Bayfront, the marina.
Okay.
And your mom's funny. We'll pull up and they'll pull in the line and they'll park it. You know, take the key out, and I started looking at stuff. Your mother will not leave the bike. She's afraid someone's going to steal it.
You have the key, right?
I have the key, and it's a line. You know, there's nobody going to steal this bike. But she's like, oh no, I'm not going to leave it alone.
So you had that repainted with the gold flake taken out just for this part, or
No,
that's darker?
I had my stencil. I make it just come up and says, make me something that says Kawasaki this long and a little H2 this long.
Yeah.
When I had them repaint it, they put the flake down, the base, the flake, and then they put Kawasaki and sprayed it, and then they candy coated it on the top.
Okay.
Candy purple.